So in this session, we are going to discuss about the biomedical waste management under the waste management topic and under the banner of environment management. So in the environment management, we are discussing about the waste management. Up till now, we have discussed about the e-waste management, then hazardous waste management, and now it is a biomedical waste management. So at least we must have idea what exactly the biomedical waste is, how to deal with this biomedical waste, what are the categories of this biomedical waste, and what are the treatment techniques or the procedure for the biomedical waste, right? So biomedical waste is any waste which is generated during the diagnosis, treatment, or immunization of human beings or animals, or in research activities, or in the production of testing of biologicals. So now we know that for the COVID-19, there are lots of research are going on. So some research activities is also the part of this biomedical waste, because this research activity is generating some waste that is called as biomedical waste. Some treatments, some operations, some processes where the animals or human beings are involved, that all the diagnosis or the treatment operations, and that generates some waste, that is also called as biomedical waste. So the majority part of the biomedical waste is nothing but the hospital waste or clinic waste. It refers to all waste, biological or non-biological, that is discarded and is non-intended for further use. So we know that from the operation theaters or some treatment, some biological part, that is called as body parts, that is biological waste, and some non-biological parts like some plastics, some syringe, etc. are the non-biological part, but which are discarded by that particular activity or from the hospitals or clinic. That is why it is called as the hospital waste. Then medical waste refers to material generated as a result of patient diagnosis, treatment, immunization of human beings or animals, that is medical waste. Then what is infectious waste are the portion of the medical waste that could transmit an infectious disease. So infection, normally we are knowing about this. So the waste which can generate the infection, where the chances of infections are more, that is called as infectious waste. So for example, simple syringe which is already used, if you are going to reuse, then there are chances of infection from one body to another body. Then pathological waste, a waste removed during the surgery, autopsy, or the medical procedures including human tissues, organs, body parts, body fluids, and specimens along their containers. So some body parts or some organs or tissues, if it is needed to remove from your body, then that is called as pathological waste. So this is the quantification. This graph gives us the idea what exactly the countries are generating the biomedical waste, that is 1 to 1.5 kg per bed per day in a large hospital, and 0.3 kg per bed per day in a small hospitals. So you can compare this Sri Lanka, Pakistan, India. So we are going to consider this India. So this is 1.5 kg per bed per day is the biomedical waste generated, right? So you can understand, if the metro city or the main cities are there, then in that metro or main cities, there are lots of hospitals or clinics available in that city, and depending on the size of that hospitals, depending on the number of beds, these kgs can be calculated. So you can understand how many kgs, or indirectly in terms of tons, the biomedical waste is generated in the cities, and that should be treated on daily basis. So this is the biomedical waste, that may be non-hazardous, that may be hazardous. So the percentage of non-hazardous waste is 75 to 90%, and the hazardous waste is approximately 10 to 25%. In that hazardous waste, again, it is subcategorized as infectious, so which can cause infection, and other hazardous waste, right? So this infectious non-hazardous waste is approximately 15 to 18%, and other hazardous waste is 5 to 7%. So infectious waste may include non-sharps, sharps, plastic disposals, liquid waste, etc. And in the other hazardous waste, radioactive waste, discarded waste, glasses, pressurized containers, chemical waste, cytotoxic waste, and incinerator ash. So after incineration or after combustion, some process is needed in some hospitals or for some operations. So after incineration or burning, the ash is generated. That ash is under the other hazardous waste. Cytotoxic means, normally in a simple form, it is called as expiry drugs, expiry medicines, which is discarded or rejected. Then radioactive waste is generally X-ray units may generate this radioactive waste. So the contaminated materials or the substances from the X-ray area or some other areas where radioactive sources are used. So these are the biomedical waste categorization. The sources of this healthcare waste is government or private hospitals, then nursing homes, physician or dentist office or clinic, then dispensaries, primary healthcare centers, medical research and training centers, animal or slaughterhouses, labs or research organization, then vaccinating centers, then biotech institutions, production units, etc. So there are lots of sources available which can generate the healthcare waste or it is a biomedical waste. Now the overview of this biomedical rule, because we are treating or managing this biomedical waste with reference to the biomedical waste management and handling rule 1998, and that is why we must know what exactly this rule is, what is the treatment or management facility provided by the government, what are the guidelines for this particular facilities, right? So the rules apply to all persons who generate, collect, receive, store, transport, treat, dispose or handle biomedical waste in any form, right? So this rule is applicable to all this, not only these hospitals, but who are going to collect this waste, who are going to receive this waste, who are going to store or transport this waste, etc. So all these persons and companies or the agencies which are involved in generating, collecting, receiving, transporting or disposing or handling this biomedical waste is applicable to all. Rules under the Environment Protection Act 1986. So our the major umbrella is Environment Protection Act, and this under this umbrella, that is Environment Protection Act 1986, one of the rule is Biomedical Waste Management and Handling Rule 1998. So the first draft is 95, the second is 97, and it is notification from 98, amended in 2003, and now rules is notified in 2016. So I have already mentioned that there are many rules which are amended in 2016. It has two schedules. Schedule 1, categories of biomedical waste in India. Schedule 2, color coding and types of container for waste disposal. So as far as this biomedical waste concept or biomedical waste management is concerned, so these two schedules are very important as far as this biomedical waste management rule is concerned. So from the student point of view, from the industry point of view, you must know what categories are there and what is the color coding and their meaning of that container. So these are the categories from schedule 1, that is from 1 to 10. There are 10 categories under this biomedical waste rule. The category number 1 is human anatomical waste. So that is human tissues, organs, body parts, etc. These are the example where this category number 1 is called. So this category number 1 is related to the human anatomical waste. What is the treatment and disposal option for this type of waste? We are simultaneously learning about the treatment from the type of waste. So depending on the type of waste, the treatment is decided, right? So incineration or deep burial, right? So that dumping technique, but deep burial is there. So incineration or deep burial is the treatment for the disposal. So incineration is nothing but the burning process. Normally it is in terms of two chambers, primary chamber and secondary chamber, and the normal temperature for this incineration is more than 800 or approximate 850 degrees Celsius. Now the category number 2, that is animal waste. So you know this animal waste part, and the incineration and deep burial is the treatment. So animal waste may include the tissues, organ, body parts, carcasses, bleeding parts, fluid, blood, experimental animals used in research, waste generated by veterinary hospitals, colleges, discharge from hospitals, animal houses, etc. So we know that these animal are going to treat in the veterinary hospitals by the veterinary doctors, but in some cases, in some institutes or some specially government institutes or research institutes are there where this waste can be generated, because if you know that before applying or before sanctioning or before licensing for the any type of drugs or medicines, you have to apply that medicines first on the rats or rabbits, and then only we can decide whether it is applicable or suitable for the human beings or not. If you want to find out some toxicity limits like LC50, LD50 values, that is lethal concentration and lethal doses values, then also you have to take the trials on the rats and rabbits. So that may generate again the animal waste. So in that institutes and organizations also, this animal waste, that is category number 2, can be generated. Then category number 3 is microbiology and biotechnology waste. So this waste from laboratory culture, so some laboratories are there which are using this culture, stocks or specimen of live microorganisms or attenuated vaccines, human and animal cells, culture used in research and infectious agents from research and industrial laboratories, waste from production of biologicals, toxins and devices used for the transfer of cultures. So we know this COVID-19 situation is starting from that one laboratory. So that laboratories comes under this category number 3, where the animal cells and cultures and different parts are stored, and they are going, the research is going on that particular parts or the cells of that animals. So that is nothing but the microbiology and biotechnological waste, right? So some vaccine generating laboratories or some virus study laboratories like virology departments are also there, where this category number 3 waste can be generated. So what is the treatment or disposal option? Local autoclaving. So autoclave is nothing but the pressure vessel where high temperature and high pressure is there. So microwaving or incineration. So microwave can be used to treat this waste. So in the microwave also, a specific type of intensity and frequency waves can be transferred through this waste, and that waste can be treated. So high temperature, high pressure is the autoclave one option, then microwave is second option, and if it is not suitable, then incineration is the last option. Then category number 4, that is called as waste sharps. So needles, so syringes, scalpels, blades, glasses, etc. are the sharp edges or the sharp materials, where it is called as waste sharp, that may cause puncture and cuts. This includes both used and unused sharps. So that may be used or that may be unused, but this, if the material or substance is of sharp edges, if it is harmful to our body part, then it is called as waste sharp under category number 4. What is the treatment and disposal option for this? Disinfecting. So disinfection by chemical treatment, by autoclaving or by microwaving, or mutilation or shredding. So these are the different options available for the disinfection purpose. So we have to remove the chances of infection. and that is called as disinfection techniques. So this disinfection may be used by chemical treatment or autoclaving or microwaving or shredding. So chemical treatment, for example, if you want to use this chlorine as a disinfectant, then that process is called as chemical treatment disinfection. Autoclaving, I have already asked about this temperature and pressure conditions. If the temperature is high, if the pressure is high, so normally the infection chances are very less. If you want to use this microwave option, you can use the high intensity or frequency waves, or if you want to reduce the size of these sharp edges or sharp substances, then you can use this shredder. Then the category number 5, that is called as discarded medicines and cytotoxic drugs. So discarded is, it means it is rejected due to some issue, and cytotoxic is normally expired drugs. So waste comprising of outdated, contaminated and discarded medicines. So what is the treatment and disposal for this? Incineration or destruction and drugs disposal in secured landfills. So you can go for the incineration because it is expired, or you can go for the landfills. That is the treatment. Then category number 6 is soiled waste. Items contaminated with the body fluids including cotton, dressings, soiled plaster cast, lines, bedding and other materials contaminated with blood. So if the contaminated material is there, then it is called as soiled waste under category number 6. And incineration, autoclaving or microwave is the treatment and disposal option. Then for the category number 7, it is solid waste, waste generated from the disposal items other than the waste sharp such as tubing, catheters, intravenous sets, etc. So other than the waste sharp, that is come under category number 4. So excluding category number 4, other waste can be called as solid waste for the category number 7. So the disinfection by chemical treatment, autoclaving, microwaving, mutilation and shredding are the different treatment and disposal options. Then in category number 8, liquid waste. Now category number 7 is solid waste. Now it is liquid waste. So waste generated from the laboratory and washing, cleaning, housekeeping and disinfecting activities. So if it is in terms of liquid, then this is called as liquid waste, category number 8. And this is infection by chemical treatment and discharge into drains. So the main treatment technology is chemical treatment for the category number 8. Now for the category number 9, that is for the incineration ash. So ash from incineration of any biomedical waste is called as category number 9, and disposal in municipal landfill, that is the treatment, right? So in the municipal landfill, you have to dispose this incineration ash. Now the category number 10 is chemical waste. So chemical used in production of biologicals, chemicals used in disinfecting as insecticides, etc. So I have already tell you what exactly the insecticides is. So if this disinfectants or insecticides or some other chemicals can be used for the preparation or the treatment, then it is called as chemical waste. So we have already learned that some chemical treatments are required for the treatment of some types of category biomedical waste, and that is why after the chemical treatment, if the waste is generated, then that is called as chemical waste. So chemical treatment and discharge into drains for liquids and secure landfill for solids, that is the treatment and disposal methods. So these are the 10 categories of biomedical waste as per as the schedule 1 of biomedical waste management and handling rule 1998 is concerned. Right. Now on the basis of these categories, we have to store, we have to collect this type of waste in some containers. So this schedule 2 gives us the idea how to store or where to store this biomedical waste. So there are 4 categories, that is yellow, red, blue or white and black. So these 4 colors are given to a particular type of container, that is yellow plastic bag container is there, then category number 1, 2, 3 and category 6 can be stored or collected in these plastic bags and the color of that container is yellow, right? So this type of container plastic bags having color yellow, so that category number 1, 2, 3, 6 from these schedule 1 categories should be stored in that particular container. The treatment option as per schedule 1 is already discussed, that is nothing but the incineration and deep burial. Now likewise, you can understand if the category 3, 6 and 7 is there, and if it is microbial soil or tubes, then the type of container is having red color and disinfected container or plastic bag should be used for this category number 3, 6 and 7, right? So if you observe this, in this category, this 6 and this 6 is repeated. So in this 6, human, animal and microbial only. Now in this case, microbial soil and tubes also are included. So the treatment is already discussed, that is autoclaving, microwaving and chemical treatment. Now if the blue color is used for that container, then you can understand category number 4 and 7 waste is there. That is waste sharps and tubes are contained in that container, that is through plastic bags or the puncture proof container, right? The treatment is already discussed. Now the black color showing that plastic bags can be used for the category number 5, 9 and 10. So some medicines, chemicals, incinerated ash, solids, etc. are from the category number 5, 9, 10 and can be collected in the black container. So if the black container is there, means it is the 5, 9, 10 category biomedical waste. If it is blue, it is 4, 7. If it is red, it is 3, 6, 7. If it is yellow, 1, 2, 3, 6. So on the basis of container, we can identify which type of biomedical waste is there. And on the basis of that container and color coding, the receiver or collector agency can identify which type of treatment is needed for this type of waste, right? So this is the disposal in secondary landfill from the black color containers. It is means from 5, 9, 10. So this is the schedule 1 and 2 from the biomedical waste handling and management rule 1998. So this is the same pictorial presentation, that is for yellow, red, white and blue. So what yellow exactly indicated, type of bag and container use, type of waste can be collected in this yellow container and the treatment facility. So similar way for the red, for the white and for the blue. Now there are some different guidelines in the different countries where this color coding is different, right? So we have to follow this biomedical waste rule 1998 as far as the India is concerned. So these are some principles of this biomedical waste management. Now we know what exactly the biomedical waste is, what are the other types of waste similar to biomedical waste. Then we know that which rule is applicable for this biomedical waste. Then we know that what are the categories of this biomedical waste. Now we know that what are the containers and the color coding of that container and the type of category waste can be collected. Now how to manage it. So this waste minimization and recycling is the main principle for this biomedical waste management. So how to minimize this waste, how to recycle this waste, or how to produce this recycling type of waste to recycle again and again. That is the main principle. Then to identify the points of waste generation. So what are the sources where the maximum biomedical waste is generated, to identify that points. Then waste segregation at source. So while collecting or before collecting or before loading to the vehicle, you should segregate that particular type of waste in the different categories or at least different color containers, so that we can identify which type of waste is there and how to treat that waste. So if the segregation is at source, then it is simple to operate or treat or disposed at the site. Then compiling the inventory of waste. Now we can understand in the vehicle which type of waste is there, how much quantity is there in that vehicle, and in the at the site how many waste is there, how much quantity is there, and how to treat or dispose now this type of waste. Because in the biomedical waste treatment, in the biomedical waste rule, it is clearly mentioned that this collection should be on the daily basis, and that is the main problem or issues. Because sometimes in some cities the hospitals are more, the beds are more, the hospitals are generating a large quantity of solid waste, biomedical waste, and for collection of this waste and for transporting this waste on daily basis to that site is difficult task. So waste collection and transportation is the principle again, then waste treatment, then final disposal. So we know all these things. Now occupational safety is the again concern, especially while collecting, while transporting, and at the site. So we have to take care, we have to adopt some standard operating and safe operating procedures for the collection, for the receiving, for the transportation, and for the unloading at the site, and then the treatment. So the continuous monitoring of this system is needed for the biomedical waste management plan, because unless and until monitoring is done, the standard operating or safe operating procedures are not going to follow at the site itself. So these are the some examples where this biomedical waste collections vehicles are shown, and the symbol is used for this biomedical waste. So this symbol is called as biohazard symbol. So this biohazard symbol, if is on the vehicle, it means this vehicle or this vehicle or this vehicle is carrying the biohazard, right? So on the basis of this principle of managing the biohazard, there are main three categories, that is 3R principle should be used, and that is reduce, reuse, and recycle. Nowadays there are 4R principle, 5R principle, etc. But as far as this biomedical waste treatment is concerned, 3R principle is very much useful, that reduce the amount of waste produced. So we have to think of, we have to taken care, or we have to use the technology, latest technology, how to reduce this amount of waste produced. What are the different substitutes, what are the different technologies which can be used to reduce this waste production, right? Say for example, simple, if the paper waste is generated in the hospital waste, and if the papers are contaminated, so obviously this biomedical waste is generated more as compared to the hospitals where where the dryers are used. So if you are going to use the dryers, if you are going to use some sensors, then the paper waste is less. So depending on the type of equipment, depending on the technology utilization, you can reduce this types of waste production or generation at the source itself. Then to reduce toxic content, so that we can promote reuse. If the toxicity is the main characteristics, wherefrom we can't use this particular substance or contaminated substance again and again, that is nothing but the reuse. If we remove this toxic characteristics, then we can reuse, that is second R. And if the third R is applicable, then it is also a better option. So eliminate risk to allow recycling. So I have already mentioned there are some plastic bottles, there are some glass bottles. If there is a property which is not toxic, then you can recycle that particular material, and obviously the load of this biomedical waste can be reduced. So we can go for this reduce, reuse, and recycle principles to reduce the overall burden of this biomedical waste to the common biomedical waste treatment plant. So reducing the amount of waste at source, so generating less waste, less wrapping material, returning gas cylinders to the supplier for refilling rather than replacing second cylinder, third cylinder, etc. Then equipment that can be reused, such as tableware that can be washed rather than disposable tableware. So we have to avoid the disposable materials to reduce this amount of waste generated. Then sorting at source. So segregating waste is the best way to reduce the volume of hazardous waste requiring the special treatment. Segregation at source is the better option, and recycling already uh, discussed some examples. Now the different materials I have shown, that is batteries, paper, glass, metals and plastics. Then composting of plant waste, kitchen and garden waste. Then recycling of silver used in photographic processing. Recovering energy for water heating, for example. It is prohibited to reuse needles or syringes. So nowadays we are not using this needles or syringes. We are using this disposable syringes now, right? Now this is the layout or the flow chart where you can understand how to dispose or treat this waste. Now when the waste is recyclable, reusable, then it can be sorted out or segregated out, separated out. And if the waste is uh, infectious waste, then we have to operate in this way. So if the infectious waste is there, and if it is under the category like sharps, if it is plastic, if it is pathological waste, if it is microbiological waste, if it is liquid waste, then the treatment facilities are different. So suppose if the sharps as the infectious waste is available, that is nothing but the needles, scalpels, syringes, blades, glass, etc. So we can understand what is meant by sharp, which can cause the injury to the person, and that is why that sharps are can be treated in the autoclave, or normally it is preferred to go for the shredding option. That is combinator or shredder, it is the equipment where these sharps edges materials or substances can be reduced in the size, right? And after that it can be segregated or separated, and each can be recycled after the removal of these toxicity characteristics, right? So these sharps can be separated if suppose these metals are there. So these metals can be recycled after the treatment. So recycling is the better option, and if the recycling is not the option, then we have to go for the landfill, right? So the landfill is the final treatment if it is not the recyclable material. Then for the plastics, we know that some items like syringes, blood and urine bags, then IV bottles, that is for saline, and tubing, etc. are the different example where the plastics are used. So plastics can be uh, treated through autoclave for disinfections at high temperature and pressure, or it can go through the microwave for the disinfection purpose, but microwave is not suitable for the blood sterilization, right? So if autoclave or microwave is the option, then it should be passed through the shredder. So in the shredding, that size of that material or the plastic can be reduced, and then again if that uh, um, low size particle, small size particles are reusable, recyclable, then it should be go to the recycling section. If it is not recyclable, then we have to landfill that. Then pathological waste, human tissues, blood bandages, soiled cotton, dressings, etc. should be incinerator only. So this is the first and last option for the human tissues, blood bandages, soiled cotton dressings, etc., where blood contamination tissues contamination or body parts are there, then we must adopt the incineration technique only. If it is not recommended, as some of the biomedical waste treatment plants are in the cities or nearby cities, or which can generate some odor or smell which can adversely affect on the environment, then you should go for the deep burial. But deep burial is the technique which can be adopted by the villages or taluka places where the land is available, because nowadays in a normal city like Nasik, like Pune, Mumbai, it is not recommended that you should go for the deep burial. The incineration is the best technique or suitable technique for this pathological waste. Then some microbiological waste, that is viral and bacteria infected waste from all sources. It should go through the autoclave, hydroclave option, and if it is recyclable, then you can recycle this material. If it is not recyclable, then we have to adopt the incineration or landfill option. Likewise, for the liquid waste, that all body fluids, bloods, urines, suctions, etc. So chemical disinfection is the first treatment, and in that again, normally chlorine is the appropriate or suitable option, which is cheap also. That is why normally we are going to use this chlorine derivatives like sodium hypochlorite. Nowadays also in COVID-19 situation, we are using sodium hypochlorite from 1 to 5% for sanitization of some areas. So depending on the area requirement, if it is the small area and we are using on daily basis, then 1% is 1% of sodium hypochlorite is better option. If it is the area like garden area, like compound area where you are not going on daily basis, then you can go for the 2%, 3%, or in some cases up to 5%. But 1 to 2% is the better option for the sanitization. Now in this case for the disinfection. Now this flow diagram gives you the idea for the common biomedical waste management facility. So in the Nasik area near Dwarka, this common biomedical waste treatment facility is there, and in general the common biomedical waste management facility is under the municipal corporations. So municipal corporation, that is governments, are the main responsible agencies where they are going to operate, but they may go through some agencies. They can pass the tenders and they can give the contract to a third person or third party or the company which can run this common biomedical waste management facility. So in the Nasik case, that is Watercress is the company who is running that biomedical waste treatment plant under the guidelines from the Nasik Municipal Corporation. So this is the general criteria or the general flow chart which can be applicable to all types of this common biomedical waste management facility. So this collection of biomedical waste in leak-proof closed vehicles. So that is first step. So here this biomedical waste is collected from various sources like clinics, hospitals, laboratories, etc. And this collected biomedical waste is received by this plant. Now, if the waste is incinerable waste, then it should go to the incineration section. If it is waste of such type that autoclave can be the option for disinfection, then that waste should be go to the autoclave section. If the two waste are separated out or unloaded, then that vehicle should go to the washing section for the vehicle washing and cleaning, etc. Then this effluent can be treated in the effluent treatment plant after washing this vehicle, because some contaminant chances are more in the vehicles, and that is why this washing and cleaning of vehicle is necessary or essential. And after this vehicle washing and cleaning, effluent can be treated in the ATP plant. So in this ATP plant, this treated water reused and scrubbing and green belt, etc. So we can use this scrubber facility here also, and ETP sludge stored in leak-proof containers in an isolated places. So if this incinerated waste or incinerable waste is there, then you should go for the incineration. And in the incineration, I have already mentioned that there should be two chambers, primary combustion chamber and secondary combustion chamber. In primary combustion chamber, some temperature is there, and in the secondary combustion chamber, somewhat high temperature as compared to primary chamber is there for the complete combustion process. So to get the complete combustion process, we have to use this primary and secondary chambers, and from these chambers, uh, this ash is generated because there are very solid particles are there. So incinerated ash is generated. So this incinerated ash can be disposed to the landfill, right? And if the flue gases, there are many flue gases or exhaust gases are generated due to this complete combustion or incineration process. So these flue gases should go to the scrubber system and through the filter systems, where we have to check the pollutant level. So this air pollution control device, that is nothing but the scrubbing systems, can handle these pollutants, and they can absorb these pollutants or the particulates in the scrubbers, and then only that clean air, or which is the air which may have some pollutants but under the permissible limits as compared to the flue gases, which is after incineration only. So we have to refer that maximum permissible level with reference to the MPCB norms, and with reference to that norms, we have to control these pollutants or that component levels, and after that only we can send it to the stack or chimney, and through this stack or ID fan we can send these flue gases to the atmosphere. If the autoclave waste is there, then that should be passed to the autoclave section. So autoclave section is nothing but the high pressure temperature vessel, where at high temperature pressure that infection chances are very less, near about negligible chances are there. If the after autoclaving the disinfection is completed, then that some parts are uh, going for the shredder section, where shredding is done. That is nothing but the size reduction, so that needles are cut into small parts, that may be the another parts which can be cut into smaller size particles, and after shredding it can recycle to uh, to a company where the authorized recycler is mentioned. So authorized recycler is the recycler who has taken the license and permission from the Maharashtra Pollution Control Board. So he is a authentic person or the agency which can take the recycled material from this biomedical waste treatment plant, right? So after autoclaving, it is the high pressure temperature vessel where the steam, normally steam is used, and after the condensation of that steam, if the water particles or the condensate are generated, then that condensate can be treated in the effluent treatment plant, right? So this is the general flow chart for the common biomedical waste treatment management facility, right? So I think you can understand the equipments, the flow charts, the sequence, and the facility available under this common biomedical waste management facility. Now, if the non-hazardous waste is there, these are the some example where we can reduce the um, category waste or biomedical waste. So I have already mentioned that if you use the hand dryers instead of papers, then the kgs of papers or the quantity of paper can be reduced as a biomedical waste. Using washable items in patient rooms like gowns and lines, if the washable items are there, then obviously the waste is the generation of the waste is reduced. Then washable cups, washable plates, washable utensils in the cafeteria, then the load of this hospital waste is reduced. So there are many guidelines or the suggestions which can be implemented easily in the hospitals or the clinics where we can reduce the hospital waste. So these are the different items like cardboard, office paper, aluminum cans, glass bottles, newspaper, plastics and steel can used by the food services. So these are, if it is these all items are recyclable or reusable, then obviously the load is reduced. Not only to these practices lower the amount of waste, but they also save the hospital money in the process. So win-win situation is there. We can reuse or recycle these materials as well as we can save the money. So this is the win-win situation I have discussed already. The certain types of biomedical waste, also labeled as single use, can be disinfected and reused. So depending on the type of waste, we can disinfect and reuse. Recycling of this non-hazardous waste by separating the waste into organics and inorganic factors, selling an inorganic waste and making compost from the organic waste. So we can generate some compost from the, especially that is called as biodegradable waste. So if the biodegradable waste is generated, which is non-hazardous waste, then and then only we can generate this compost. So some facts, that is operating rooms created between 20 to 33% of this total waste generated in hospitals. The problem with this is that many of the items used in operating room must obviously be sterile. The safest way to ensure that this is to have single use items such as IV bags, sterile blue wrap, etc. So normally in an operating room there are chances of contamination, and that is why it is suggested that it should be a single use items or disposable items, and that is why the percentage of this total waste generated is more as compared to other areas. So it is near about 20 to 33% total waste generated in a operating rooms. As it turns out, most of these single use items are plastics. In a breakthrough discovery, it was found that almost 23% of the surgical waste could be recycled. So it is better option that if you are using the plastics only, then you should go for the recyclable plastics. So obviously this 23% can be recycled and it is a very good option. Nowadays approximately 16 billion injections are administered worldwide every single year. Hospitals all across the globe pay a significant amount of money on utensils manufactured from these virgin materials and invest even more in waste disposals. So better to have this type of injections. Then sterilization wrap is an integral part of the surgery process and is used in the operating theaters across the world. It is used to package surgical instruments and equipments to protect them airborne contaminants and bacteria, and is generally disposed of through incineration. So this is again the main point where the airborne diseases can be occur due to these airborne contaminants, and that is why it is suggested that sterilization wrap should be there to avoid these airborne contaminants or the airborne diseases. There is so much interest because at the moment the majority of the waste wrap is either landfilled or incinerated, which is exceptionally expensive. The recycling process removes that cost, plus it produces a workable product which will have a commercial value in the future. So this type of waste wrap is going for the landfilling or incineration only. And you know that this for landfilling or incineration, the processing cost is more. The trial of the surgical wrap recycling process is one of the number of projects seeking to implement more circular systems within hospitals and the medical waste streams. So if this sterilization wrap is the good option, then we can save this money or this processing fee for this landfilling or incineration for this surgical wrap. Reprocessing medical devices and reusing single use items. is expected to change the face of this medical device industry. So reprocessing medical devices or reusing medical devices is not recommended at all from various hospitals or the doctors, and we have to do some research, we have to do some practice, we have to do some experiment, and then only we can adopt this reprocessed medical devices or reuse. Reprocessing in the developing nations is aimed purely at reducing the cost, which often comprises patient safely. In the developed nations, especially in the US and Europe, it is systematic science regulated by the US Food and Drug Administration (FDA), and one that promises to decrease healthcare spending in the long term, provide cost saving within a year, provide respite to the shrinking bottom lines of hospitals. The reprocessing of medical devices and the reuse of device labeled as single use, although in its nascent stage, is expected to change the medical device industry over the next 5 years. So if, even though in a current situation it is not recommended, but if it is successful as far as the patient safety is there, then this reprocessing medical devices and reuse is may change this scenario in the hospitals. An old tradition, medical device reprocessing, is not new. It began during 1960 and 70 when hospitals started to sterilize and reuse medical devices, mostly because of the equipment in the period was made of stainless steel. So if you observe this thing, mostly the hospitals are using the SS314, SS316, MS316 are the different categories, but stainless steel is the better option than the other options. Now the ceramics are the other durable material that could withstand sterilization. So normally if you observe this material of construction for various utensils which is used in the hospitals are SS, ceramics, glasses, etc. And from last 10 to 15 years, the plastic is the major material of construction again. But from the conventional techniques, these SS, ceramics and glasses are the major materials. With the emergence of plastic materials, I have already discussed. So these sterilization techniques need to change now, because plastic is not the material which can retain for that particular temperature and pressure condition for that disinfection technique. Reprocessing now involves the cleaning of visible debris, complete sterilization of the device, repackaging, labeling, and finally the reprocessor being liable for any adverse events caused by the devices. Third-party reprocessing industry is continuously and rapidly growing, primarily due to economic recession, which has forced most hospitals to fall back onto reprocessing as an unavoidable cost-saving measures. The global reprocessing industry was estimated to be worth about $500 million in revenues in a year and is expected to grow at 12 to 14% in the next 7 years. So this is the third party reprocessing industry. Nowadays we are also facing these things that normally government is not going to take initiative for these cases. So private industries or private agencies can take the initiative for these types of reprocessing industries. Then medical device reprocessing. So I have already discussed that if it is recommended, if it is safe, then and then only we can go for this medical device reprocessing, because most of the catheters used for cardiovascular and nephrology purposes, orthopedic blades, endoscopic devices, fixation devices, electrophysiology catheters, electrosurgical electrodes, then endotracheal tubes, ophthalmic knives are now subject to reprocessing. So now in the current situation, these are not the reprocessed devices. So all these types of materials are normally the disposable type of material, and that is why the biomedical waste is generated. They form a substantial 30% of the supplies used in hospital, which are saving hospitals money. On average, reprocessed medical devices are 50% cheaper than new devices. So that is depending on the use of that hospitals, depending on the government policies, and depending on the patient safety. we can go for this reprocessed medical devices. A survey of nearly 3,000 hospitals in US show over $150 million in savings were generated for each year through reprocessing. So depending on the conditions in the India, we can adopt this medical reprocessing, which may save the money, but we have to check whether this reprocessed medical devices is suitable for our country or not. So these are the some points where this reprocessing can include cross contaminations and hospital acquiring infections, inadequate decontamination and cleaning, not guaranteed performance, safety and reliability. That third point is very much important for as far as this human being safety is concerned. Material alteration caused by exposure to environment, highly resistant proteins associated with the prion disease that can't be removed by the sterilizations. So in some cases, if it is the case, then sterilization is not the treatment. Residues created from chemical agents during sterilization that could be unsafe. So some are the limitations for these reprocessing medical devices, and that is why I have mentioned that we have to first check whether this reprocessing medical devices is suitable for our country or not. And depending on this case, we have to go for this next generation, that is nothing but the reprocessing medical devices. Thank you.